Part 1, The Invisible Wanderer. The neon haze of the city. Vina moved like a whisper through the crowded streets, a ghost in plain sight. The neon haze of the marketplace pulsed in shifting colors, signs flickering with holographic advertisements in a dozen languages, some human, some not. A towering billboard projected the face of a politician promising a brighter future for Earth's colonies, his artificial smile stretched just a little too wide. Below, the city buzzed with its usual controlled chaos, vendors shouting deals, hover bikes weaving between pedestrians, the scent of sizzling meats mingling with the metallic tang of ozone from a nearby power node. She walked through it all, unseen. The illusion of invisibility. To be fair, it wasn't true invisibility. That was a common misconception about her kind, the Nari. They weren't mythical shadow walkers or spirits slipping between dimensions. It was all technology, layers of advanced bioweave nanites wrapped around her like a second skin, bending light and tricking the human mind into believing she wasn't there. Even the best surveillance drones skimmed right past her, their lenses blind to the intricate distortion field humming softly around her body. It was a perfect system, flawless. At least, that's what she had always believed. Until today. The scent of grease and curiosity. She strolled past a vendor frying something particularly greasy on a grill, the scent almost assaulting her senses. Humans had a disturbing love for deep-frying everything. Sometimes, it felt like their entire species was engaged in an ongoing war against their own arteries. She smirked faintly, stepping aside as a small child darted past, clutching a lollipop nearly the size of their head. And then it happened, a shift in the air, a feeling like a ripple breaking the still surface of water. She turned her head slightly, scanning the crowd. The eyes that saw her. Her gaze landed on him. A young man, perhaps in his mid-20s, with messy dark hair and paint-stained hands. He was sitting on a low wall, sketching something in a battered notebook. But it wasn't his appearance that caught her attention. It was his eyes. They were locked onto hers, wide with surprise and something else, recognition. That was impossible. No one could see her. No one ever had. Yet, there he was, staring directly at her as if she were the most ordinary thing in the world. The first spark of connection. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. The noise of the marketplace faded into a distant hum, and all she could hear was the rapid beating of her own heart. She should have turned away, slipped back into the safety of her invisibility. But something about him held her there, rooted to the spot. He blinked, as if questioning his own senses, then slowly raised a hand in a tentative wave. Vina felt a strange warmth spread through her chest, a feeling she couldn't quite name. Curiosity? Hope? Fear? The decision to stay. Before she could second-guess herself, she took a step toward him. The distortion field around her flickered, and for the first time in her life, she allowed herself to be seen. The young man's eyes widened further, and a slow smile spread across his face. "Hi," he said, his voice soft but steady. "I'm Yarrick." Vina hesitated, then replied in a voice she barely recognized as her own. "I'm Vina," and just like that, the invisible girl became visible, and her world began to change. The beginning of a mystery. As they talked, Vina learned that Yarrick was a street artist, someone who saw the world in colors and shapes others often overlooked. He told her about his work, about the stories he tried to tell through his art. And then, almost casually, he showed her the sketch he'd been working on when their eyes met. It was a drawing of her, not as she appeared now, but as she truly was, her Nari features unmasked by the cloaking technology. Vina's breath caught in her throat. "How did you?" she began, but Yarrick just shook his head. "I don't know," he admitted. "I just saw you." The warning in the shadows. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the city, Vina felt a chill run down her spine. She glanced over her shoulder, her instincts screaming that they were being watched. In the distance, a figure stood silhouetted against the neon lights, a tall, broad-shouldered man in a military uniform. Commander Tyrus. Vina's heart sank. She had been careless, and now her secret was no longer safe. "We need to go," she said urgently, grabbing Jarek's hand. "Now." To be continued. As they disappeared into the labyrinth of the city, Vina couldn't shake the feeling that her life was about to change in ways she couldn't yet imagine. The invisible girl had been seen, and nothing would ever be the same again. Part 2, The Ripple in the Stars. The Hidden Alleyway. Vina pulled Jarek into a narrow alleyway, the walls closing in around them like a protective cocoon. The sounds of the marketplace faded into a distant hum, replaced by the soft drip of water from a broken pipe overhead. She pressed her back against the cool metal wall, her breath coming in short, sharp bursts. Jarek stood beside her, his eyes wide with a mix of excitement and confusion. "What's going on?" he whispered, his voice barely audible. Vina held up a hand, signaling him to stay quiet. Her ears strained for any sign of pursuit. The commander's shadow. Commander Tyrus was not a man to be underestimated. Vina had heard stories of his relentless pursuit of those who defied Earth's military regime. If he had seen her, if he knew what she was, there would be no escape. Not for her, and certainly not for Jarek. She glanced at the young artist, his paint-stained hands clutching his sketchbook like a lifeline. "We need to move," she said finally, her voice low and urgent. "They can't find us here." The safe house. Vina led Jarek through a maze of backstreets and hidden passages, her knowledge of the city's underbelly guiding them to a small, unmarked door. She pressed her hand against a hidden panel, and the door slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, the room was dimly lit, filled with strange equipment and glowing holographic displays. Jarek stared in awe, his artist's mind soaking in every detail. "What is this place?" he asked, his voice filled with wonder. "The mentor's arrival." Before Vina could answer, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was Lyra, her mentor and one of the few Nari who had remained on Earth after the Great Exodus. Lyra's silver hair shimmered in the faint light, and her piercing blue eyes studied Jarek with a mixture of curiosity and caution. "Who is this?" she asked, her voice calm but firm. Vina hesitated, then stepped forward. "This is Jarek. He saw me." Lyra's eyes narrowed, and she crossed the room to stand before the young man. "How?" she demanded. "The ancient message." Jarek opened his sketchbook and showed Lyra the drawing of Vina. The Nari scientist studied it carefully, her expression unreadable. "This is no ordinary sketch," she said finally. "There's something here, something ancient." She turned to one of the holographic displays and began typing rapidly. The screen flickered to life, displaying a series of symbols that matched the patterns in Jarek's drawing. "These are Nari symbols," Lyra explained. "From a time long before our people left Earth. They tell of a hidden truth, a secret that could change everything." The conspiracy unveiled. As Lyra decoded the message, a chilling picture began to emerge. The symbol spoke of a conspiracy, a plan by Earth's military to weaponize Nari technology. Commander Tyrus was not just chasing Vina, he was part of a larger operation, one that threatened not only the Nari but all of humanity. "We need to stop them," Vina said, her voice filled with determination. "But we can't do it alone." "The rebel leader." Lyra nodded, her expression grim. "There is someone who can help," she said. "A man named Ziwayan. He leads a group of rebels who have been fighting against the military's tyranny. If anyone can help us, it's him." Vina glanced at Jarek, who had been silent throughout the conversation. "Are you with us?" she asked. The young artist nodded, his eyes filled with resolve. "I'm in," he said. "Whatever it takes." The journey begins. With Lyra's guidance, Vina and Jarek set out to find Ziwayan. The journey would be dangerous, but they had no other choice. As they left the safe house and stepped back into the neon-lit streets, Vina felt a strange sense of hope. For the first time in her life, she was not alone. She had Yarok by her side, and together, they would uncover the truth and fight for a better future. To be continued. As they disappeared into the night, the stars above seemed to shine a little brighter, as if watching over them. The ripple in the stars had begun, and nothing would ever be the same again. Part 3, The Hidden Truth. The Underground Network. Vina and Yarok moved through the city's underbelly, guided by Lyra's instructions. The streets grew darker, the neon lights replaced by flickering bulbs and the occasional glow of a makeshift fire. The air was thick with the scent of rust and decay, a stark contrast to the bustling marketplace they had left behind. Yarok stayed close to Vina, his sketchbook tucked safely under his arm. "Where are we going?" he whispered, his voice barely audible over the distant hum of machinery. "The meeting with ZYN." They reached a hidden entrance, marked only by a faint symbol scratched into the wall. Vina pressed her hand against the symbol, and a hidden door slid open. Inside, the room was filled with rebels, men and women of all ages, their faces hardened by years of fighting. At the center of the room stood ZYN, a tall, imposing figure with a scar running down the side of his face. His eyes narrowed as he studied Vina and Yarok. "Who are you?" he demanded, his voice rough and commanding. "The revelation." Vina stepped forward, her voice steady despite the tension in the room. "My name is Vina. This is Yarok. We need your help," she explained the situation, detailing the conspiracy they had uncovered and the threat posed by Commander Tyrus and the military. ZYN listened in silence, his expression unreadable. When she finished, he crossed his arms and leaned back against a table. "And why should I trust you?" he asked, his tone skeptical. "The proof." Yarok stepped forward, holding out his sketchbook. "Because of this," he said, opening it to the drawing of Vina. ZYN's eyes widened as he studied the intricate patterns and symbols. "These are Nari symbols," he said, his voice filled with awe. "Ancient ones." "Where did you learn to draw these?" Yarok shook his head. "I didn't. They just came to me." ZYN looked at Vina, then back at Yarok. "You're telling the truth," he said finally. "We'll help you." The plan. ZYN gathered his closest advisors, and together they formulated a plan. The rebels had been fighting the military for years, but they had never had access to Nari technology. With Vina's knowledge and Jarek's unique abilities, they had a chance to strike a decisive blow. "We need to infiltrate the military's main research facility," ZYN explained. "That's where they're developing the weapon. If we can destroy it, we can stop them." The journey to the facility. The journey to the research facility was fraught with danger. They moved under the cover of darkness, avoiding patrols and surveillance drones. Vina's cloaking technology kept them hidden, but the tension was palpable. Yarok stayed close to Vina, his hand occasionally brushing against hers. "Are you scared?" he asked quietly. Vina nodded. "Yes. But we have to do this. For everyone." The infiltration. They reached the facility just before dawn. The building was a massive, imposing structure, surrounded by high walls and guarded by heavily armed soldiers. Vina activated her cloaking technology, and the group moved silently through the shadows. They reached a hidden entrance, and ZYN used a stolen access card to open the door. Inside, the facility was a maze of corridors and laboratories, filled with strange equipment and glowing holographic displays. The discovery. As they moved deeper into the facility, they began to uncover the truth. The military had been experimenting on Nari technology, trying to harness its power for their own purposes. The experiments were brutal and inhumane, involving both Nari and human subjects. Vina felt a surge of anger and determination. "We have to stop them," she said, her voice filled with resolve. The confrontation. They reached the heart of the facility, where the weapon was being developed. The room was filled with scientists and soldiers, all working frantically to complete the project. Vina and ZYN exchanged a glance, then moved into action. The rebels attacked, taking the soldiers by surprise. Vina used her cloaking technology to move through the chaos, disabling key systems and freeing the prisoners. The escape. The battle was fierce, but the rebels had the advantage of surprise. They managed to destroy the weapon and escape with the prisoners. As they fled the facility, Vina glanced back at the burning building. "We did it," she said, her voice filled with relief. But ZYN shook his head. "This is just the beginning," he said. "The military won't stop until they have what they want. We need to be ready." To be continued. As they disappeared into the night, Vina felt a strange sense of hope. They had uncovered the truth and struck a blow against the military, but the fight was far from over. The hidden truth had been revealed, and nothing would ever be the same again. Part 4, The Cosmic Connection. The Aftermath. The rebels regrouped at a hidden base deep within the city's underground. The atmosphere was a mix of relief and tension. They had struck a significant blow against the military, but everyone knew the fight was far from over. Vina sat in a corner, her mind racing. The weight of what they had uncovered pressed heavily on her. Yarrick approached her, his sketchbook in hand. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. Vina looked up, her eyes meeting his. "I don't know," she admitted. "This is bigger than I thought. Bigger than all of us." The ancient prophecy. Lyra joined them, holding a small, glowing device. "I've been analyzing the symbols from Jarek's drawing," she said, her voice filled with urgency. "They're not just a message, they're part of an ancient Nari prophecy. It speaks of a cosmic connection, a bond between two beings that can change the course of history." Vina frowned. "What does that mean?" Lyra hesitated, then looked at Yarrick. "It means that you two are connected in ways you can't yet understand. Your meeting wasn't an accident. It was destiny. The bond deepens." Vina and Yarrick exchanged a glance, the weight of Lyra's words settling between them. Yarrick opened his sketchbook, flipping to a new page. "I've been drawing more," he said, showing Vina a series of sketches that seemed to tell a story of two beings, one Nari and one human, standing together against a backdrop of stars. "I don't know where these come from," he admitted. "They just appear in my mind." Vina reached out, tracing the lines of the drawing with her finger. "Maybe we're meant to figure this out together," she said quietly. The rebels' doubts. Not everyone was convinced. ZYN approached them, his arms crossed and his expression skeptical. "I don't believe in prophecies," he said bluntly. "What I believe in is action. We need to keep fighting, not waste time on ancient stories." Vina stood, her eyes blazing. "This isn't just a story," she said. "This is about understanding who we are and why we're here. If we ignore this, we might lose our only chance to stop the military for good." ZYN hesitated, then nodded. "Fine. But we need a plan." The plan unfolds. Lyra projected a holographic map of the city, highlighting key locations. "The military's main base is here," she said, pointing to a heavily fortified area. "If we can infiltrate it, we might find more information about their plans, and how to stop them." Vina studied the map, her mind racing. "We'll need a distraction," she said. "Something big enough to draw their attention away from the base." ZYN smirked. "Leave that to me." The distraction. The rebels launched their attack at dawn, striking multiple military outposts simultaneously. The city erupted into chaos as explosions rocked the streets and alarms blared. Vina and Yarrick used the distraction to slip into the military base, their cloaking technology keeping them hidden. The base was a labyrinth of corridors and rooms, filled with soldiers and scientists. Vina's heart pounded as they moved deeper into the facility. The hidden chamber. They reached a heavily guarded door, marked with the same symbols from Jarek's drawings. Vina disabled the security system, and the door slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, the room was filled with ancient artifacts and glowing holographic displays. "This is it," Vina whispered, her voice filled with awe. "This is where they've been studying Nari technology." The revelation. As they explored the room, they uncovered more of the prophecy. It spoke of a cosmic event, a convergence of stars that would unlock the full potential of Nari technology. This is what the military is after, Vina realized. They want to use the convergence to power their weapons. Jarek frowned, but if we can control it, maybe we can use it to stop them. The connection. As they studied the artifacts, Vina and Jarek felt a strange energy between them. It was as if the room itself was alive, responding to their presence. Vina reached out, her hand brushing against Jarek's. "Do you feel that?" she asked. Jarek nodded, his eyes wide. "It's like, we're part of something bigger." The escape. Their moment was interrupted by the sound of approaching footsteps. "We need to go," Vina said urgently. They grabbed as much information as they could and fled the room, their cloaking technology keeping them hidden as they made their way out of the base. The return. They returned to the rebel base, their minds racing with what they had discovered. Lyra and Zyn listened intently as they explained the prophecy and the convergence. "We need to prepare," Zyn said finally. "If this convergence is real, we need to be ready to use it." To be continued. As the rebels began their preparations, Vina and Jarek stood together, their bond stronger than ever. The cosmic connection had been revealed, and nothing would ever be the same again.